Okay, hello everyone, good evening. Okay, so my name is Tony. Okay, so today for Python, so we'll be continuing with what Bolu taught us last week, or sorry, earlier this week on data types. So we'll be looking at, no, he's already told us that there are different data types in Python. So there are integers, which are numbers, or string. In the simplest form, let me call strings or words or floats. So floats, I'll call them decimals or Boolean. So Boolean is just values that are, okay, true or false. So those are Booleans. Okay, so I'll just be moving on to integers. Okay, and the IDE I'm using today is Jupyter. So I'm using Jupyter Notebook. So we've already been told that there are different IDs that we can use to run our codes. So we can use VS Code. We can use Spider. So and there are different IDs like that. Okay, so I'll be using Jupyter. Okay, so as I told you, so integers are numbers. Okay, so I will start now. So for this one, so I'm assigning 1 to 1. So this one is the variable, and this one here is the value of the variable. Okay, so I will start now. Okay, so let me run this now. Okay. So let me restart the kernel. Okay. So okay. So let me run 1. Okay. So the first, I've run my first variable, which is 1. Okay. So let me run 2. Okay. Then okay, let me even go on to add another variable. So and I will call this 3, which is 3. So let me run this also. Okay. So now let me print 6. So 6 is my variable, and these are values of my variables. So 6 is 1 plus 2 plus 3. And we already know that the print function is what we use for printing to get our values. Okay. So now we can see that I'm getting 6 now. Okay. So that is just addition. Then we can, so let me cut this. Then we can also even go ahead, rather than assigning values to each variable, you can go ahead, because they are integers, to just sum them up. So 7 equals 3 plus 1 plus, I think there's another 3. So let me print 7. Okay, then I'm getting 7. Okay, so we can continue now. So that's just about integers. So I know Bolu already talked about addition, subtraction, division, and modulus. Okay, so I'll be moving on. Okay, so the next thing I'll now be touching now is converting bases. So base of number in integer. Okay, so I'm base 2 binary. So what we can use to combine, what we can use to convert it, we can either use 0 with B, or we can use 0 with a capital B in binary. So let me try this first. So I want to convert 10 to binary. So and we can see 0B. So I'm using the first one now. So I'm getting 2. So let me change it to capital B, the second method. I'm still getting 2. Okay, so let me move on to octal. That is base 8. So let me convert 10 to base 8. So if I run this, I'm getting 8. So it has converted 10 to 8 in base 10. So okay, base 8. So I can also decide to add it as capital O. If I run it, I'm still getting my same answer. Okay, so hexadecimal base 16. Yeah, that should be base 16 as an error. Okay, base 16. So let me convert 10 first to base 16. I'm getting 16. So let me use another number, 21 in base 16, 33. Okay, so now I'll be moving on. Okay, so we use this function, type function, to find the data type of a variable. So 3 is not a variable. Okay, 3 is a variable here. So let us find the type of 3. So int means it's an integer. Okay, so let me find the type of this variable also. 21 in base 16. Okay, so we can see this is also integer. Okay, so let us move on to strings now. Okay, so strings are sequences of character data, and strings are in all programming languages, PHP, Python, or any other one. So strings in Python, they are called str. And string literals may be delimited using either single quotes or double quotes. All the character between the opening delimiter and the matching, this is also what they are saying, this or these are part of the strings. And just me saying it in my little words, strings are words. So let me run this now. Let me print Tony. So Tony is a Python mentor. So that is the value it gives me. So let me change it now to double quotes. So when you're working with strings, you can either use single or double quotes. But let me print Tony again. I'm still getting still the same output. Tony is a Python mentor in Zurich. Okay, so now let us move on to string operations. So the first string operations we'll be talking about is capitalize. And if we've noticed, most of the, if we are using any functions in Python, we always we use brackets. So that is what we use for our functions. Okay, so I'm starting with the capitalize function. So capitalize, it converts the first character to uppercase. Okay, so let me change this. Okay, so now let me run capitalize, and Tony is the variable here. So let me capitalize Tony. So the first character of Tony, it's what's supposed to change to uppercase. So we can see now, was the variable before. Tony is a backend Python mentor in Zurich. This small letter T, it has converted it to capital letter T. Okay, so now let me, okay, so the next string operation we'll be talking about is capitalize. So what capitalize does is it converts the first character to what case food does is that it converts string into lowercase. Okay, so Tony.casefold. So let's run Tony.casefold. You can see Tony.casefold is returning. Tony is a backend Python mentor in Zurich. You can see the former T that was capital is now small letter. Okay, so now let us go to the next one, which is count. So the count function returns the number of times a specific value occurs in a string. Okay, so Tony is a backend. So let us count the number of O's that are in these strings. So Tony.count, then O, it's showing that it is 4 times. Okay, so let us count the number of times. Let's change it to B. The number of times B shows. And we can see B is just appearing once. So we can keep going on like this. Tony.count. Let's see the number of times A shows. I'm running that, and it's showing A shows 2 times, which is here, the A here, and the A here. Okay, so let us move to the next string operation. So the next one is ends with. So this returns true if the string ends with the specific value. Okay, so we already know that this ends with I. Okay, so let's run this now. Tony.end switch ends with, if it ends with A, and we can see it is false. It is showing us false because it doesn't end with A. So the I that is ending with, if we run it, then the output is true because this string, Tony is a backend Python mentor in Zuri. This I, it ends with I. Okay, so now let us move on now. So find. So the find searches the string for a specified value and returns the position where it's found. Okay, so just like this is everything here they have position, and the first one is 0. So position it is 0 followed by O. So O is 1. This other O is 1. Okay, so let us so Zuri. So Zuri. So if we look for Zuri, the position Zuri is found now is 37. So let us look for Tony. And if I run that, it's showing 0 because the first T in Tony is 0. Okay, so even let me clear this now too. The T is 2. Well, if I run this, I'm getting 1 because the 0 in this Tony, it's holding the index 1. So that is why I'm getting 1 here. Okay, so let me move on to the next one now, and it's alpha. So the is alpha function just shows returns true if all characters in a string are in alphabet. So I created new variable here, and I call this Zuri. So I can even go on to, okay, so I said Zuri is tech. So if I don't want to put it, so I'm just assigning it to any variable. Zuri is Python, and I'm running that. So is alpha, is all the characters in Zuri, which is Python, are they all alphabets? If I run that, I'm getting true because all those ones are alphabets. Okay, but let me now run Tony. If I run Tony, I will get false because if we notice there is space here, there is a space here, there is a space here, there is a space here. So all those spaces, that is what is not making it making the is alpha to run through. Okay, so is null. Is null returns true if all characters in the strings are alphanumeric. So if you have any questions, you can drop them on the YouTube channel comment section. Okay, so I'm creating another variable now and I'm calling it 3. And for this 3, I'm assigning the digits 3 to 8 number. Okay, so okay, let me go on to even call this 4. And I'm assigning 4 to 8. So if I run this, okay, so it's 4. All the characters in 4, are they all numbers? So I'm getting true. Okay, then we can keep going like that. So it's decimal. It's decimal returns true if all characters in the strings are decimal. So okay, let's try one. So let's call so this variable, I'm calling it decimal. And what is inside the variable? 2.4. Okay, so now let me use is decimal. So decimal dot is decimal function. So false. So let us try is digits also. Okay, true, because 24 is a digit. Okay, someone is saying, can I scroll up? Okay, so I will make this the Jupyter notebook I'm using, I'll make it available. Okay, so you guys can always go through it. Okay. Okay, so now let's go to the next function. And this next function is replace. So what replace does is it replace a string where a specified value is replaced with a specific value. Okay, so let me type this again. So Tony dot replace, and for this you need to specify the function. Okay, so for Tony, let me replace, so everywhere there is O, let's replace it with U. Okay, and the Tony that was there before, Tony is a backend Python mentor. So it's now showing Tony is a backend Python mentor. Okay, so that is what replace does. And now let's go to upper. Okay, so let me, okay, so Tony dot upper. So what that does is it converts a string into uppercase. And you can see the string has been converted into uppercase. And lower, on the other hand, what lower does is it converts the string into lowercase. Okay, Tony is a, okay, so that is what it does. And split, what the split function does is that it splits the strings, a specified separator, and returns a list. So okay, so what this just does is it separates each character or each word together, it separates them into lists. And we'll talk more about lists as we are going on. So list is the next thing we'll be talking about. Okay, so let me check if there are any questions on strings before we move to lists. Okay. Okay, so Alanya De Femi is asking, does all num and is digit functions the same? Well, numbers and digits are like basically the same. So yes, you can say they do the same thing because numbers are integers and digits are also numbers. So is Zuri equals Python and Zuri equals Python the same in declaring variable? No. So what he is saying, so let me create, he's saying is Zuri equals Python the same as Zuri equals Python. Okay, so this first one is a wrong way of declaring variable. So if you are declaring strings, they need to come with brackets, as I've said before. So okay, well, you're getting the same thing. But because when you start doing string operations, it's always better to use this. So this is like the generally acceptable way of declaring variables. Okay. Okay, so I'm moving on now. So I'm moving on to lists. So lists. So in Python programming, a list is created by placing all the items, elements inside square brackets, separated by commas. it can have any number of items and they may be of different types. So we've talked about integers before. So floats, like let's say decimals, then strings that we just talked about. And a list can have another list as an item. So this is what is called a nested list. Okay. So this is just a list I created. So Zuri mentors equals then Xylos, Motum, Prometheus, Big Daddy. Okay. So let me run this. So if I print this now, so this is what I'm getting. Okay. Then so for a nested list. Okay, so this is a nested list because this is a list inside a list. Okay, so now let's go to list operations. So these are the different list operations, and we'll be going through each and every one of them. So append. What append does is that it adds an element at the end of a string. Okay, so this, this is the list we created before. So now let us go on to append. So maybe so let's add another person to the list. So Zuri mentors, then append jovial call. Okay, so if we print this now, so we can see jovial call move to the end of the list. So when we append, what append does is that it adds the element to the end of the list. And okay, let's even try another one. Zuri. Then for this, if you remember, I said that a list can take different data types. So let me make this a number. Okay, so we can see it's at appended 4. So because I ran the code twice, that was why we have 2 4s. Okay, so we don't need this. Let me delete this. Okay, so and the next function we'll be talking now is clear. So what clear does is that it clears the whole list. So let us use it now. So if we print Zuri mentors now, if we clear it, we can see there is nothing inside the string again. Okay, so now let me move to the next. So let me just go back here and define the list again. So copy. What copy does is copy returns a copy of the lists. Okay, we can see. So these are a copy of the list: Xylos, Mutum, Prometheus, and this is the nested cell. Okay, so let's move on now to the next list operation, which is count. So what the count function does is that it counts the number of times a character appears in a list. So if I change this to, okay, let me append. Okay, so I've appended 4 twice. So first, let me count Xylos, number of times Xylos appears. Okay, you can see it's showing it appears 1 time. So if I go on Zuri underscore mentor dot count, so now I want to count the number of times 4 appears. Okay, I'm getting 2 because it appears 2 times. Okay, so okay, so now we're now going to talk about indexes. So as I've told you before, indexes are like positions that each of these characters, or each of these elements in the list that are taken. So the positions, the first one is always taking the position 0. So Xylos takes position 0, Motun takes 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, going on. Okay, so now let me look for the index of Motun, where Motun appears. Okay, and we can see it's appearing in the index 1. So let me look for the index that Big Daddy appears. Okay, it's appearing at the third, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is about indexes, and it's similar to the indexes we talked about in string. Well, just that the one for string is that, so for this index, because it's a string, this is 0, 1, 2, like that. But for this, because each of them are, this is a list, so this is one element on its own, this is another element on its own. So when you can't, when you do the index, it brings out index for each of the elements. Okay, so now let's go to insert. So what insert does is it adds an element and it specifies where you want it to add the elements, the index you want it to add it. Okay, so let me say I want to add Femi to the beginning of the list. So we can see now that Femi is at the beginning of the list. So Xylos was formerly there, it's now Femi that is taking the 0 position. Okay, and pop. So the next function, what pop does is that pop removes the elements at the specified position. Okay, so I think I have many 4s. So let me pop 1 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or so I won't need to be counting. Let's find the index that 4 is taking. Okay, it's taking index 9. And you will notice it's this first 4 it counts. So it's not counting this, because when it's counting, this is the first one you count down. So you can see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This nested. This nested list is being counted as 1 because it's a list. It's an element on its own. 8, 9. So it's the first one is counting. Okay, so let's pop index 9. Okay, we've popped it now. Okay, so now let's print it. Let's print our list back. So we can see it's now showing just 1 4 because we've popped the other one that was there before. Okay, so now let's moving on. So the next function now is reverse. So what reverse does is it reverses, just like the name, it reverses the order of the list. So how it is ordered before, it reverses it. So now let's use the, okay, so zuri.mentor.reverse. So let's print zuri.mentors. Okay, so 4 was formally at the end, followed by this nested cell, nested list, B. So now we can see it as reversed it. 4 is now taking the 4 is now at the top, followed by, okay, like that. So this is what reverse does. So now let's go to the next one, which is sort. So what sort does is it sorts the lists. And when it sorts by their type. So let us sort this now. So it does mentor does sort. Okay, not supported for instances. Okay, so I think this is because there's a nested cell. Yeah. So let me do this first. Let me define Zuri mentors too. Without the nested cell. Okay, so now let me sort it. Zuri. Okay, and something about the variables that we are creating also is that variables are case sensitive. So if I print Zuri underscore mentors 2 now, if we noticed the Z, the variable we assigned, it's uppercase, but now I'm putting it as a lowercase. And now I'm printing it. So it's giving me an error because it has not been defined. So the variables we create are case sensitive. So let's note that. So if I print this now, so we can see that it has already sorted it. Okay, so let me even go on to add an integer here. Let me add integers. So let me sort it back. Okay, so as you've seen, the integers are coming first, followed by the other elements, which are like strings in lists. So followed by R, B, Big Daddy. So it has already sorted them. Okay, so now we'll be moving to the okay. So now we are moving to tuples, and tuples are similar to lists. The only difference just okay. So tuples are used to store multiple items in a single variable. A tuple is a collection which is ordered and unchangeable. A tuple is similar to lists but immutable. So lists are mutable, and I would do just like an example to show us that. So lists, so we can see lists are starting with square brackets. But when we define tuples, we define them with normal brackets. And let us also note this. It's good to note this, to know the difference between tuples and strings. So we can see this is a tuple. And when we talked about strings, we just saw that this is a string. So we can't see any commas in between, just one string. But for tuples is a collection, and it's similar to this. So we can see Jack is an element, John is an element, Jane is an element. Okay, so Zuri intends and just like lists, tuples can also store any data type. So let me run this now and let me print the tuple down. Okay, so we can see this is a tuple I just printed. Ola, Dele, and Ebuka. Okay, so let me move on now to the next function. So the next function is just len, the len function. So if we want to print the length of a string, a list, or tuple, we use len. So I remember Tony, the first the string we created. This string we created. So let us print the length. So if I print the length now, I'm getting 41. So that is the length of the string, like Tony. So now let us print Zuri mentors. So the length of Zuri mentors, and I'm getting 10. And that is because each one is an element. So this is it. One, this is one, yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And Femi is the last one, 10. So that is the length. And if I print the length of 0 intents, I'm getting 3 also, because that is 1, element 1, element 2, and element 3. Okay, so the difference between tuple and list, just like I said, lists are mutable. That means that you can change the order of a list after a list has been created. Okay, so now I'm creating this now, currency. So as you can see, list has started with square bracket. So currency is naira, cedis, and dollars. Now, the first index, so index 0. So what this does is currency. I want to, in the index 0 for currency, which is naira, I want to replace naira with euros. Or even if it's pounds, I put there. So if I print currency now, we can see that I've replaced it. So pounds is now coming first. It has replaced naira. So mutable, list can be changed. Now let me go to tuples. So this is tuples. You can see when we say this brackets, yeah, so these are tuples. And the same way, let me create naira, set these dollars. The currency 2 equals naira, set this dollar. Now let me try to change the second index, which is dollars. Let me try to change it to euros. So we can see here, tuple object does not support item assignment. So that is the major difference between tuple and list. So let us note the difference. So just like I said here, strings is not tuple. So there are note the difference between string and tuple also. Okay, so we are pretty much done talking about strings. So doing a recap. So we started from data types. So integers been taken before. So we went through integers. So integers are numbers. Then from there, we went to how to convert bases of number in integer. So base 2, we want to convert base 2. Either we add 0, b, or we add the small 0 with a small letter b. So then we moved on to how to find type of a data, the data type of a variable. Then we move to strings. So strings are sequences of character data. And just like I said, they are found in every languages. So string in Python are called str. Okay. Then from there we move to string operations, capitalize, which capitalizes the first character of to uppercase. Then case fold, which converts the whole string to lowercase. Then count. Count counts the number of times this character appears in the strings. And O, 1, 2, then there's another O here, then the last O is here. So it appears 4 times. And if it can't be, this is the only B, appears 1 time. Then A appears 2 times. Then we move to ends with. So ends with returns true if string ends with a specific value. So then we run this code. A, does this string end with A? O, end with A, so it gave us false. And we also tried end with I, then we got true. Then we looked for the find. So what find does is it searches a string for a specified value and returns the position. So the first, and as I told us, it's going to find the first position. So where is 0 found in Tony? So the first O is found at the position 1. So this is position 0, so 1. And then we did is alpha. Is alpha returns true if all characters in the strings are in alphabet. Then after is alpha, we move to is num. So 4, then we move to is digits. Is 24 a digit? Yes, true. Then move to replace. And we replace all the zeros in the strings with you. So and it gave us this. Then we move to upper. And upper converts a string into uppercase. Then we move to lower, which converts it to lowercase. Then split. So split brings the string as specified. So we splitted it into a list. Yes. Okay. Then after that, we move to lists. So lists are created by creating elements in square brackets. So, and then we printed this, and then we move to list operations. And the first one we did is append. So we appended jovial call. So by default, jovial call moves to the end of the string. So if you can see here, and also we appended 4. So 4 shows there, and we cleared. So when we clear, there was nothing left in the list. Then copy. Copy just copies them into a new line. So you can see here. And the next test cell is showing as an element on its own. Then count. So then we can't show xylose. So the number of times xylose shows, and it's showing us xylose shows one, just one time. Then also we counted 4. Number of times 4 shows, and you see that it's 2. Okay, then we did index. So to find index of where Big Daddy is. So Big Daddy is in index 3, because this is 0, 1, 2, 3. Then we did that. Then we inserted at the index 0, we inserted Femi. That's where Femi is coming first. Then also we looked for index. So what is an index? Okay, so index returns the index of the first element with a specific value. Then after that, we move to index. Okay, so Zuri mentors index 4. So where's 4 here? So it was in index 9 here. Then after that, we pop. So what pop does is it removes the elements found in this index. And when we popped 4, so we popped one of these 4 here, and that is why when we printed it, we are just getting 1 4 here. Then reverse. What reverse does is it reverses the order of the list. So that's why 4 is starting. Okay. Then we move to sort. So we created a new list here. Then 3, 10. Then when we sorted it, you can see the numbers are coming first, followed by the words, the elements, which are strings. Okay, then we now move to tuples. So we said tuples are created by starting with brackets, normal brackets, and they are similar to lists. But the only difference is that lists are mutable, whereas tuples are immutable. Then we created the length of Tony, the list string we created before, and 41 in all characters. Then we printed the length of Zuri elements, 10. So 10 elements, and also Zuri intents, which is a tuple, 3. Okay, and this is where we talked about difference between tuple and lists, where we try to assign a new element to index 0 in currency, Naira, and we got pound. And we tried it also for tuple, or you can see we are getting an error. Okay, so we're done for class. So if we have any questions, let's send our questions to the YouTube comment section. So in the next class, we'll be talking about loops and conditions. Okay, are there any questions? Okay, so I can't see any question on the YouTube page. Okay, let me check again now. Okay, what is the main use of tuples if they are immutable? Okay, so when you go on with coding, so when you get to like web development, so you see like the importance of tuples. You see more about the importance of tuples. Okay, so can we find more examples of this on Python documentation? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So okay, and another question. Okay, another question. How do we comment out more than one line on the IDE at a time? How do I comment out a line? Okay, how do I comment out a line? I believe what you are talking about is like this. So if I like light equals print light, then okay, so or even I even write print light here. But then I decide to delete this. How do you comment out? So I'm just deleting it. So this is a Jupyter notebook allows me to delete. So that's what the Jupyter notebook allows me to do. Okay, so where do I get the Python documentation, please? You can always search online, or we send to you on the via the Zuri board and also the Slack channel. Okay, the next question: what is the difference between Jupyter and Anaconda as IDE? Okay, so Anaconda is an IDE majorly used for like yeah. So okay, so you can check for the documentation. Just check Python. Check python.org for documentations. Python.org. Okay, what's the difference between Jupyter? Okay, so let me open it. Okay, so responding to question, what's the difference between Jupyter and Anaconda as IDE? So like Anaconda is a main package. So if you download Anaconda, Anaconda comes with different like apps. So it comes with Jupyter, it comes with Spider, then it also comes with VS Code and maybe Asium, but I'm not sure. Okay, so if you go to python.org, you can find documentations. So beginner, you can download beginners documentations for beginners. So beginners guide, moderate, so Python's book advanced. So anything what is new, so you can get it from here. So let me click on your beginners guide. Okay, new to beginner getting Python. So this shows you what you need to download Python and all. So okay, so Python, what is NumPy, Pandas? So these are frameworks for machine learning. Okay, so just go to python.org. So for any documentation you need, you get here. Maybe Python frequently asked questions. So anything you need, you get here. So you can always go there. Okay, so thank you for today's class. Okay, the schedule for the live session. So you always comment out by using okay. So for the next class, we'll be talking on functions, conditions, and loops. Okay, so I think I get the question you were asking. So how do I comment out? So for this Jupyter, it allows me to change this. So where I was running before, you can see it's in code. So if I want to comment out now, I just change this code to Markdown. So if I change it to Markdown, Markdown means I want to write words. So I can either decide to write Zuri internship. I can print this, which will return it, which will are the same way, or Markdown. So hash. So if I use the hash, just makes it bold. And first hash makes it very big. So the second hash, if I use the second hash, makes it small. So just like that. If I add one more, so it makes it smaller, just like that. So mark down if you want to comment on your code. Okay. My question is, how do you comment out one line already written so you don't want to run it again? Okay, I'm not really sure about your question, but like if you like if you notice here, when we defined this list, so we've defined this list at first and we printed it, so we got this. Then when I did clear, so what clear did it cleared it. So if I was to use this to count Xylos now, I will get 0 because I can't get it. So if, when I was moving back to each of the operations, I had to go back to define this main function, the main list. So I had to define it back. So when I count Xylos again, I can get 1. Okay, so any other questions you have, you can just send it on the Slack channel, and any of the Python mentor will attend to it. Okay, so thanks so much for today. Okay, so my name is Tony.